Hi, everyone. Jenny Wise here from Wise Mind Soul Warrior and Yoga Psychology School. And I am so honored and super excited to have Beth Sears on with us. She is one of our beautiful yoga psychology graduates, and she is a dear friend and soul sister. So I'm so grateful to have her on with us here today. So let's start with you kind of sharing how you and I connected and what kind of brought you to Wise Mind Soul Warrior? What brought you to the training?
It's a whole lot, isn't it? So I met you. I connected with you first. You were my mentor in another yoga training, which was wonderful. And Jenny was you were always there and even keeled and no pressure. But it's that right push and pull, the receptive and giving. It's that right combination. So you appealed to me quite a bit because I need a lot of that, a lot of balance, and we all do. But I was pretty out of balance, and so I gravitated to you even before I gravitated to your training, because I really wasn't thinking about doing any more trainings because I have a lot. And of course, the one I had done was, it was a similar topic. And so my brain was going into this, you should be doing better. You shouldn't be anxious, and you shouldn't be this, and you shouldn't be that. And I wasn't even noticing it. And so it took me a little while to even consider. And so I do a lot of work with women in menopausal years, and insomnia is a huge part of that. And that was part of my story. It didn't dawn on me until I was posting about it. I think Christy may have been the one, one of your staff, messaged me and said, I know you're interested in this. She didn't realize I'd already done. Anyway, and she said, you're posting about insomnia a lot, and this might help or something like that. And I originally went, I've already done something like that. I'm good. I went, wait, hold on. I'm not good. And I had worked myself into such a position that I couldn't just slow down enough to see. It was so much going on. I mean, I could talk about this for like 5 hours, so you rein me in a little bit. But COVID hit, and right beforehand, after years and years and years, I finally opened up my own brick and mortar office, and we had furnished it, and I was writing a book there, and I was starting to create a course, and I'd had some clients in, even though it hadn't completely opened. I was just soft opened. I'd set up my Reiki. I had room for 2 clients for the yoga. And one of the first things that went was my brick and mortar office. First of all, you couldn't get down there because it was closed, and then the building was sold. And so I had a lot of feelings of failure and a lot of feelings of, this just must not be for me. And I went deeply into caregiving in COVID, and I thought I was rocking it. Nope. So while I dealt with a lot of the old trauma and a lot of old things that had been tripping me up for years, I have all this new stuff. And I was not realizing that I was being affected like I was, because I really wasn't doing my own practice like I needed to do. So I went, aha. And actually, I was at the beach with Rich when you and I chatted about doing this. And I went, that is actually perfect for me. So there I went.
Here you are.
Yes.
So if you could pick, because I know you were working on anxiety or perfectionism, procrastination, what would you say, either personally or professionally, if you were going to pick, 1 to 3 things that drew you, that you were struggling with, that you're like, okay, I really want to work on these things because I need to go deeper. Even though I've done all this work, I still need to go deeper.
It was the anxiety piece was probably the most obvious, because that was, and it took a little while for that. I mean, I think a lot of the benefits have even been as I've left the, as I've completed and moved on and started to figure out what my life needs to look like today. The anxiety had become pretty crippling, actually, because I had it was compounded by these feelings of almost hypocrisy, because my brand was always, do the small things. You don't have to do the whole complete blah 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 to get results. It's not it's the small incremental changes. It's every coaching class of any type, whether it's fitness or yoga or a life coaching class I've taken. It's always make the small progress, always keep moving forward. That anxiety got so crippling that I was moving backwards for the first time in my life. I mean, and I've had some big T trauma that did not set me back like this did. Looking back, there may have even been some depression, but and I also have avenues of therapy, so it's not like that's not a piece of my story as well.
Right.
So I wasn't ignoring that, but the anxiety, and so I think that was the most physical manifestation of that, because it really tripped me up. And yeah.
And I think that too, for a lot of people, including you and myself and most students, that, I guess in some ways it was a gift from the pandemic, as far as, even though it's not like an easy gift to swallow or to look at it as a gift, of like pulling back a lot of distractions. And it also brought a lot of things to the surface and to the conscious that were not in the conscious before, that we were all forced to look at, if that makes sense.
It is absolutely. And you've probably even heard me say that. It's hard. And so it's hard to even say things like that, because you never know if people are actually going to understand. It's not that I'm like welcoming it, like, come on, bring me some more. Because, there's the anxiety led to such a feeling, for me, at least, of overwhelm, that I felt like I couldn't get anything done. One of the words that pops up in a lot of my writing is agency. I just didn't feel like I had the power and the circumstances, and I stopped looking for support. So that was the other reason I came. I don't say back to you, because I never really left. I also did a retreat of yours, if you remember, between my last training and this one. So,
well, you did 2 retreats.
Yeah, the second retreat was during.
We did the first one in Asheville in the summer of 2021, and you were part of that retreat, and we did a whole fire transformation and the whole thing. And then you came back last summer, 2022, and we did another location in Asheville.
Yep.
And that was like a bigger group of women, 2 cohorts together, at a different location. And that was absolutely amazing to sit back and watch all that. And it was interesting to watch you too over the past year and a half, how much you've changed. Well, actually more than that now, from when I started, right? So that's been really interesting. It's always it's such an honor and a gift for me as a teacher to be able to sit back and watch, the transformations that happen. And as far as the anxiety piece, I mean, this, but when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to like reset yourself. That when you're in anxiety, when you're in stress and in fight or flight, if you're not grounded, you are going to just have a tendency to run around and like not really get anything done, because you're usually going to be in busy syndrome or distraction mode, or you're worrying about something but your executive brain is shut off, right? Your prefrontal cortex is not working. And so you're just spinning around you
are. That's how it feels.
It's like worry about the future, or whether you're just not in the present moment, or both. You can't get stuff done when your brain is, as like this.
Yep.
So now I definitely feel like you're in a place more of focus and less distraction. And I feel like you're in a better place now than even when you were like 6 months ago. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, we've continued to work together. It's not like it stopped. So I definitely think the thing that was always missing from me, it's still missing a little bit. I'm still working on it, but that's okay. And that piece of me saying that, I've always known it and said it, but it's something I'm living now. So there's more self-compassion, which is a huge thing. It's a word also that is so it was a lack of agency before, and there was a lot of upheaval in my life. It was loss. I mean, the grief of what I perceived subconsciously or unconsciously at first, until I actually looked at it. I never grieved the loss of a business, and it wasn't really a loss of a business, but it was. I shuddered it. Loss of friends. I mean, what I've experienced, like so many of us. And everybody was doing their own thing, and so at first I was very needed, and then I wasn't. One daughter moved out permanently. Lots of life changes were happening during this period. I don't think you ever have seen me. I've said this to you before, that like the real me. I did have to lose myself to find myself. I think it's a huge gift. All the work we do, the shadow work we've done, looking at the things that have really wounded you. So many. I just love the concept of the golden shadow. It's the fact that you do have this beautiful lesson, if you will, this new way of being. If you allow whatever the hard stuff was to work on you and through you. But during COVID and that first before we finished and during this process, it was I was throwing up a lot of resistance to that. So it's really, I think it was a godsend. There's a reason for all of this. Because you also, and also putting the time in with you. It's nice to be able to have the relationship that you're going to know the person, because you did. I've watched you with other people too. Really know where they are, and allow the space for them to grow. At the same time, you're going to be able to create the structure as well. The urgency of getting some things done too. Because sometimes I've just been tapping down too much, grounding, thinking I needed too much grounding. So then I go the other direction.
So tell me, what do you feel has been the biggest kind of personal healing and transformation, like the soul work that you've done during this program, that you'd like to share, whatever you're open to sharing? Where have you seen the biggest transformation? I mean, obviously you mentioned the anxiety piece, but what else do you feel like you've worked through as far as different patterns or shadow work or,
I think, let's talk about the overwhelm, because that was, I think the most, I kind of think it's the symptom of the anxiety getting the best of me, and sort of, I became a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't do that. I can't do that. So my house, where one of the little shadow things I have, or one of the beliefs, childhood beliefs that I very recently, like this is actually as the program ended and in the last couple months, realized how much of my self-worth was coming from the condition of my house, like how clean it was. And it comes from my mother, who would vacuum the floor 3 times a day and have the lines in a row. And my father jokingly named the vacuum cleaner. It had a name, and so it was a thing in my house. And I didn't realize I felt that way at all. But then I think when my world kind of got smaller with COVID, and we were all in the house, and the girls came home with all of their things from college, and started getting things for apartments, everything sort of exploded. It was overwhelming, and to the point where I can't find the things I need to find. I mean, just even to cook dinner, and I was really, my anxiety was increasing again, and so being able to use the tools and to examine some of these thoughts, and to to do a lot of the early childhood work. Just looking at those I lost the name. What are they called? The
Good parent messages.
Good parent messages. Yes. I love that exercise. And it's interesting how every time I do it, I get something different. But I'm not going to tell you I'm always at peace. I have a lot of vata. I'm a lot of in that time of life. It's cold and gray and that time of the year, and but it's certainly easier to achieve. And as soon as it started working its magic, and I've been breaking down my yoga practices for me again. It's not, oh, let me do this so I can teach it. I think that it might be silly to say, but one of the biggest lessons was that I needed to, even though I knew I needed to heal and I need to continue to do the work, that I really deserved to do the work. And that I don't know if that, I didn't realize I didn't think that. It's just such a gift, the self-exploration as well. I do love that practice that you do. And then the write and burn is one of my favorite things too. I use that quite often. But to be able to work through the overwhelm, which of course procrastination was a piece of that too. And I'm still figuring out what practices I need to put in to make that even better. So much of the anxiety and the overwhelm, it's all fear-based, of course. So, that's what you're really addressing underneath it all. And there's always something new that pops up, which is kind of cool about life, because that's what we're doing, right? Continue to work on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about yoga and yoga psychology and mindfulness and self-compassion and all the things, is that it is a practice, and it's meant to be a practice. And when we perceive life as it being a lesson and being an opportunity for growth, and we see it that way, and our lens sees it that way, then it makes it a lot easier to, I mean, and this isn't to say we're never going to get upset and we're never going to get triggered. So that's not what I'm saying, but very less often. And you're able to stay in a place of calm most of the time. You train yourself to do so. And things don't, things that might have bothered you a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, it just doesn't bother you anymore. It's just like, I'm not going to waste that time and energy and emotion on that anymore. I'm done, and one of the phrases, I don't remember who said this, because I've heard it, I think multiple places, is like, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend 5 minutes on it. Don't spend 5 minutes of your time and energy on that. Right. So asking yourself, is it hindering or is it helping me? And this is not an easy thing to do. I mean, this is literally something you have to continue to go back to all the time, because you'll find yourself getting off that pattern and then you have to bring it back. It's just like, I'm wasting my time. Why am I allowing these thoughts to come in? This is a total waste of my energy and my time. And
they are. And I was doing that. They were coming in fast and furious. I was looking for the evidence to validate those bad thoughts. So, taking the course, even though, Jenny, I would not have been on that path. I do not think it would have been. Again, it's that agency. It's that I didn't feel still like I had the right to feel good.
All right. So switching gears for a minute, someone who does not know me, right? Or someone who knows me and maybe has not gotten on call with me, right? It doesn't have to be someone that doesn't know me. It could be someone who just doesn't know me well enough that we've not gone on a call together before. What would you tell that person as far as my style of getting on a consultation and talking about the yoga psychology program and what that's like?
It's open and kind and without any pain or anything like that. There's nothing to worry about. You're looking for a good fit. You're not going to offer this course to somebody who wouldn't benefit. I mean, because I mean, that was a serious situation for me. I have a lot of yoga training. I didn't need to be able to say I had another yoga teacher training, but I did need your course. And so I also think that you are quite knowledgeable about the rest of the world too. So the pieces that you're very understanding of the limitations the world seems at least to put on us, if that makes sense. It's not always easy to get out of bed in the morning. It might sound great to go, oh, you should get up at this time, but you can't always do that, and it's cold and whatever. So you're finding the solutions so that you can sit and practice and allow your mind and allow those creative thoughts to come, which I was blocking. You ask wonderful questions. It's very it is very driven for the person that you're having the conversation with. It's very individual. I feel like I'm leaving something out here that I should say, because it's just always been so pleasant. I never had, and I'm not the best at picking up the phone and calling people. Actually, I'm kind of bad at it. And that comes from my mother too, because she sort of trained me to think that people would be bothered by me calling them. So I've had to get over that. But I don't think I ever had that with you. At all. It's if anything, it's too easy to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. It's funny you said that, because a lot of times, well, majority of the time, I mean, I can't even think of someone, like, unless it was somebody that was just not ready and that they were in a place of like such distraught that they just weren't in the place, right? Outside of that, like if somebody's in a 911 emergency situation, you're not ready for this. But if you're somewhere in between like a 5 and a 10, so I'm kind of talking about someone on a scale, if they're at a 1 or a 2 and they're in like an emergency, right? You're in that type of place where you're just in a very dark place, or you're dealing with, really bad, if your anxiety is so bad that you can't even like function, you're probably not going to be a good candidate. You're not going to be ready for this.
Nope.
So that's one of the main reasons why we do. One is it's a fit both ways, right? But a majority, like 95 to 98% of the time, it's not that we don't connect as a teacher and a student. You know what I mean? Like I don't have that because I get on a phone call with them just like I am with you right now. Like it's pretty much like, here, what are you struggling with? Where do you want to go? What's the gap? Here's what I think we have that may help you with that. And if it's not a good fit, I'm going to tell them, So that's just what it is. But part of our process is we don't just like open the doors to everybody. So that's why, especially with this next cohort, we're trying to limit it to about 20 students. And so, there's only so many spots that we're planning on right now. So that's what it is. Okay.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not right now. It's not a good fit. It's not a good fit right now.
Right. The timing of it for them. Yeah. Now I will say before I move on, you're never 100% ready. So let me just like put that myth out there, because the ego and resistance, we could talk about that for an hour. The brain is going to try to keep you safe. It's going to keep you in your comfort zone, even if it's unhealthy. So if you're waiting to be 100% ready, you're never going to be 100% ready. So in that regard, you have to be able to step into this because you're ready for change and you're ready for transformation and you're ready to learn these new things that work. And you're ready to do the work and you want to make the time and commitment and the energy putting into it. But you're never going to be 100% ready, because the things that happen are just going to intuitively happen. They're going to organically happen the way they're meant to. And you just have to be able to step into it, like not in fear, but in faith, I guess, and being
I was going to say you need to be open and mean, because the fear is going to be there,
Right.
but really walk through it,
right.
And that is one thing I have been at least able to recognize through everything, is at least I had the willingness to look at it. For some reason, the willingness to be happy, it's exactly right. Our egos, that fear just going to keep us small and safe and
sometimes miserable. Sometimes the ego would rather keep us in misery and our suffering than to actually be living in joy and happiness.
That's absolutely.
Yeah. It would just rather like, let's just stay here in our misery, right? Let's just like stay in our guilt and shame. And that's the way the brain works. I mean, that's the science behind it. It's just like, believe me, I know, because I've lived it, and it's taken me, 10 years to want to live in joy and abundance and to be happy and to not feel good in a place of being in a lower vibration, right?
Yep.
That doesn't feel good to me to be in a lower vibration anymore. It feels
yucky
to be in joy and gratitude and peace and love, and in that vibration. And when I'm not in that vibration, I can very much feel it and try to get back into that vibration as soon as possible. That doesn't mean that we're not ever going to go into guilt and shame or anger, sadness, or apathy, or some of these other lower vibrations. That's not what I'm saying. But the point is that you can train yourself so that doesn't happen as often. And when you do go there, you don't stay there as often. And what you're meant to learn from those feelings, you learn, and you allow yourself to feel them, and you don't repress them. You allow yourself to feel that. And then you move back up the chain, back into joy and gratitude and peace and love.
And it's amazing how fast that happens when you let it happen.
Yes.
Not force it like I was, but allow it. It's it's a physical feeling as well as, obviously the mental, emotional part, but you just walk around lighter, right? I tell you, one of the biggest benefits, just the end result, if you will, relationships. It was getting kind of ugly there for a little while, and certainly couldn't point my finger externally the whole time, because I was certainly just as reactive, which I had worked really hard to stop being reactive. Life is really good at my house. And Richard feels it, my husband. He's a different person, and he's done his own work. He's done his own stuff. So I have a very devoted husband. Let me put it that way. He's far from perfect. We're both far from perfect, of course, but a lot of it's me. It's my vibration's different, so it is definitely having an impact on the people around me.
I love that. Yeah, and I can tell too, by the way, like I could tell, like, also from our conversations, so you can tell online too, but like seeing you in person last summer compared to the summer before, huge difference in your vibration. Not
physically too.
Like
I let go of a lot of weight, and and that dropped off. I didn't do anything other than I paid more attention to Ayurveda, to what I need to be doing there. And I stopped beating myself up for not doing a good job with my Ayurveda. So, and I tell you, I hate saying that it just came off, because I have family members. I've struggled with weight, and it gets so hard it does get harder as you get older, and the weight changes where it goes. And all of a sudden I just stopped accepting that it needed to be there too. And as I did things and balanced them out. So that was a huge shift as well.
That was probably another piece that was like weighing you down too, was not feeling good in your body too. Do you know what I mean? Like
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I kind of had beaten myself up with food too, both denial and overeating. So just really tapping into what that meant.
Girl. Okay. So if someone was going to ask you, right, if someone was like, Beth, I'm thinking about doing Wise Mind Soul Warrior, what do you think? What would you tell that student?
Well, of course, I always think everybody should do everything I do that I've gotten so much benefit from. So I just want the whole world, just come on in, let's have a big old circle by the fire, right? Obviously, it's a commitment, but I chose to do this despite having already had what I assumed was going to be very similar curriculum. The topic's the same, your curriculum. Okay, so let's talk about your curriculum. I don't want to, it is, you've put so much work into that. I went through it, especially as I went through it at the end, trying to, wrapping everything up and reviewing and going back, and it is so beautifully done. And
Thank you.
You're so giving with your time and your knowledge and your own curiosity and learning from others too, which I think is a very important part of particularly a yoga teacher training. Okay, what's your exact question? Sorry, I went off a little bit.
It's okay. If you were going to tell a student that was considering joining Wise Mind Soul Warrior, what you would tell them?
And also, if any of your questions, Jenny's going to answer them and make sure it's a good fit. It's done at your own pace. One of the other things I love that you do is you keep your students engaged and in community. Mm-hmm. So that's the other piece we haven't talked about, the mentoring groups. Mm-hmm. I've loved those because you do get to know your fellow students. One of the things I've heard in other, wondering about taking courses online is this going to be as good online as it is in person? Mm-hmm. And I think you do a really good job of bringing in as much of the live as you possibly can. And not only do you have your pop-ups that you do just pop up, the weekly calls, all the guests you bring in, it's just a rich training. So I do think there is something for everyone. And I'm kind of well studied with this stuff now too. And I think we can all look around, and one of the beautiful things that has come out of COVID is we are paying more attention to the mental health piece. As I started off with fitness, and then I went to nutrition, and then I got into spiritual coaching and yoga. And my first yoga training was along with a nutrition training, and I did my personal training certification at the same time. So I was very, this outwardly focused. And as it's come in, and I just think you're going to get so much from this. I think you do an excellent job of explaining some kind of difficult concepts for some people. Like, the koshas, that's a concept that is every day it brings more meaning to my life. So whereas normally with most other trainings I've done, I would say that this was something that if you want to be a teacher, it's a great thing. But even as big of a training as it is, I don't even think that has to be your goal to get a lot of benefit out of this one. Because I kind of, as I say, as I did some rethinking myself, as I do the course for myself first, it's so much richer. And then I have it to give. And no, it doesn't have to be perfect to give it, but, to be the success story, or if you want to call it that. Because as we know, it's not always a success. There are going to be days when I'm out of balance.
And that's okay.
And it is okay. It's a work in progress. And I think you're also joining a group that it's a lifetime thing, right? We're making friends. You might not see each other, or you might not talk to each other for a long time, but that person still speaks the same language and has gone through something besides you. And in these in the cohorts, in the what do you call it, your mentor groups? There's a lot of opportunity, and you can, and I did. Gosh, it was one day I think I was on the phone for like 4 hours with Tara. Every time one of us would try to get off, the other one. It was
That's funny.
And what else? It's very doable. It's very accessible. You have great people for resources, for questions. I just can't imagine a better one.
Thank you. And you enjoyed the LMS, learning management system?
I
The
did.
online?
I did. I mean, at times, I mean, I gotta say, sometimes it was almost, it was, not to use the word overwhelming again. There's so much.
Mhm.
So it is one of those things that it's nice to have the teacher that's with you the whole time. So it's broken down into smaller pieces. And I
Mhm.
think the fact that you did so much on Facebook, which, and it was at a time when I wasn't on Facebook a whole lot, so it was good because it kept me moving forward with the course, which was
Mhm.
good at those times when I was struggling. You know, as I said, it was the first time in my life I felt like I wasn't even crawling forward. I was kind of,
Mhm.
so obviously taking the course by itself is a move forward, but you know, it keeps that perspective on it. You have somebody else, and not just you. I hate the word just.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say, and I might be going back a little bit because I'm not talking about the content as much, but you've shared so much of your family. It's really beautiful to see you with Olivia, and Chris has been really supportive, and
Mhm.
it's nice. It's a nice leading by example,
Mhm.
or demonstrating by example. I guess it's repetitive,
Yeah.
but yeah, the learning stuff, their learning platform is just rich with everything you need.
Yeah, and we also, like, one of the things we realized after the first cohort that was helpful is we did a checklist in each module. So the checklist you can download or print it out, and it's like an additional way to be able to, even though you can mark each one as you finish, or you can leave off a video and then come back to it, that's still another way that you can kind of, check of,
Which is
people
really
submit
important.
lists.
I have taken courses and thought I'd finished everything and gone back, and they're like 75% done. What did I miss? So that's really important. Yeah.
All right, lady. Well, I want to thank you. Like, this has been incredible. Like, I'm so grateful to you for taking the time and the energy to share your experience, and also for trusting me. I honor you for all the hard work that you've done, all the shadow work, all the inner work, all the, to get to the vibration that you're at now, because I know that this work isn't easy, because if it was, everybody would do it. So it is not easy work, but it is worth every single ounce of energy and time that you put into it. You will get 10, 20, 100 fold back. I promise.
Oh, it's so the word rich keeps coming to mind.
Now tell me, I'm not able to put it in the comments, but I will when I post. Sometimes when we do this on LinkedIn, it doesn't allow me to make comments. So what is your website again?
It's Inspired Wellness. Well, I have a website that is still under development. It's one of the things I was working on when my business went.
But what is the wellness? What do you call it?
It's called Inspired Wellness.
Inspired Wellness. Okay. I thought it was Inspired Wellness, but I didn't want to say the wrong name. I was like, I almost said Inspired Wellness, but I was like, no, I better be 100% sure. Okay.
Who knows? That may evolve, because it's I'm at a point right this minute, like, and it literally is happening in the last 2 weeks, that I'm even stepping aside what business looks like and going to let it flow and see what it looks like, rather than trying to force it into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. I mean, to your point, just because it was Inspired Wellness 2 years ago or 3 years ago doesn't mean that that's where you are now. I mean, you can always look at calling it something else, right? So that would be something I'd be looking at is, do I want to still call it Inspired Wellness, or am I going to birth something else?
And maybe that's another gift of COVID, because I think there's that evolution that had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And probably why I haven't finished the website completely too.
Yeah. That's the gift, because as you and I have talked about this many times, and will continue to, that, as you evolve and change, and as you heal and transform, the things that you're called to changes and is different. And the things that
and priorities change.
I mean, your priorities change, and the things that you were ready for in 2020 is much different in 2023.
It's
right?
very different.
It's very different. Yeah. And you and I have talked about that. It's the same thing for me. What I was ready for in January 2020 is very different from where I'm at right now and the direction that I'm going to be going this year. So,
and we didn't talk about that, but you are, and I don't want to open it up because we are finished, but you are so open to being respectful of all opinions and perspectives and wounds and needs. So I have found that to be extraordinary. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I really do try to be the most compassionate and non-judgmental I can. And I would say, I don't think I know anyone that has said that I'm not, safe or like they feel the least amount of judged. I can tell you over the past like 5 to 10 years, especially the past 5 years when I've done this yoga psychology coaching, is I've had a lot of students tell me that they have never felt more non-judged than they did in my presence. And whether that was one-on-one or in a group setting.
Yep.
And that to me is like, I mean, for somebody to feel that sense of safety and compassion and non-judgment and unconditional love and grace is a good word, because girl, I can tell you, this has been more like 25 years, 30 years, but 10 years of really hard work of being able to love and not judge myself and be compassionate with myself so that I can give it to other people. And that is probably one of the only reasons that people are coming back to me and telling me this, because if I wouldn't have done that inner work of loving myself, I wouldn't have it to give out to other people. And that doesn't mean that I don't ever have insecurities or things don't ever happen. Like there is no 100% like I'm cured for the rest of my life and I'm never going to doubt my self-worth or being enough. But the point is that you can, I've said this earlier, you can get to the point where 90+% of the time you are in a space of loving yourself and you are in a space of I am enough. And I am in a space of I'm going to speak my truth. And I am not going to let fear, get in the way of what I'm meant to do. And that's why my word this year is fearless. Girl, I'm on it. Do you know what my word was last year, which I had forgotten about until one of my team members reminded me?
No, what was it?
It was arise.
Was it really?
Which is what we named the retreat. It was
yes.
arise. Mm-hmm.
And that's perfect for your year last year.
Yeah, it was arise. And so arise, which I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, is part of fearless, right? Is stepping into like that next level, how I'm going to rise this year. What is that going to look like?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, you may be changing the name of your program because it's that's the basis, but it is.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because when I look at the some of the retreats that I'm potentially planning this year, I am going to be calling it Arise again. So there might be something, we'll see, something happen in there that I just it hasn't fully gelled yet. But I can tell you that whole Arise and the words renew, revive, a lot of these like restore, like these types of words came up for me last year, and now they're coming up again for this year. And all of that came in when I put that website together, the Arise website that we did for the retreat. And I came up with like the Wise Mind acronym and Arise acronym, all that beautiful like creativity all came from me putting that website together. Because anytime you see any landing pages or sites, I'm the one putting all that copy together. That's me. I have somebody that makes it all look pretty. Like I can't do that part. I can't do a website and like make it look pretty or a landing page, but I do know how to write copy. Yeah. But I have to be in a place of inspiration and creativity. right, in order to do that. And that website was a result of me being in that place of creativity.
Well, and you know, that is something that you have helped me rediscover.
Because guess what happens when you're in that place of calm and peace, then you can connect to your prefrontal cortex, and you connect to your creativity, and you connect to your innovation, and you're able to focus, and you're able to create these things that you can't do when you're not in that place. And I've been there, right? Like I mean, there's been times over the past 4 years where I've had to really reground and ground. So the point is, I get it. When you're in that place where you're not feeling grounded, you literally, like, physiologically and scientifically cannot create from that place. Does that make sense? You just cannot.
I know, it makes perfect sense because I've experienced it.
Yeah, your brain won't allow you to do it. So, and I feel like, you know, there's a lot of different things that we could talk about. We could be on here for another 2 hours.
I know, you know that. We can do that.
The point is, like, you know, I'm also a believer from a spiritual perspective that there are things happening, like distracting and discouraging and all that kind of stuff, right? So the brain, you can be distracted with a lot of things too. And, you know, God and spirit wants us to be in a place of a calm, peaceful mind, and in a place of joy, and in a place of abundance. And that is what the universe and God wants for us. And things that are outside of that, things that cause confusion and chaos and fear and anxiety, that's not a God. That's not coming from God. So I'm just going to leave it at that, because I could have a whole masterclass talking about what I just said, literally.
Yep.
And I've never even gotten online and talked about it, but that's going to be happening this year. So, yeah, that's a whole.
I'm there for it.
All right, girl. Well, I am sending you so much love, light, and blessing. Thank you again so much, girl. I love you, soul sister. And I can't wait to continue to connect with you this year.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions about it and they don't want to ask you, I'm happy to tell them my experience. It's
and I should mention, it's wisemindsoulwarrior.com. I'll try to put that in the comments once we get off, but the page is wisemindsoulwarrior.com. You can schedule a consult call actually from that page. You just click book a call. It's all over the page. You can see the curriculum that Beth just talked about. It's a very detailed website. So
it's a very detailed.
You can look at lots of information on the website, testimonials, everything's listed out as far as, you know, the virtual retreats, the group coaching, the manual, all the things.
The virtual retreats. See, there's more.
Now, the other thing is too, I did want to mention, we are looking at doing a retreat this year, but it's going to be separate from the training. So for those people that are really wanting to do a retreat, there will be an opportunity. It just will be an addition. So we'll do like different tiers of the training. So it's like, here's the baseline, you know, certificate, this type of stuff. And then if you're wanting this experience and you want to get together in person, it's going to be a different kind of investment package. So I'll walk people through that when I talk to them.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're doing that. Yeah.
Well, I definitely, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love doing the retreats. So I want to be able to offer something. I just don't know yet if it's going to be somewhere between the summer and the fall, and where and when it's going to be. So we'll figure that part out. I'm not worried about that. Like I said, this time last year, I didn't have the dates together for where we did it in Asheville in July. So
good.
I'm not concerned. Right now, I'm just focused on bringing the cohort in and the people that are meant to come in. And we actually already have, I think it's 3 or 4 people signed up. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and we do potentially have a man, by the way. I think we have a man that's going to be joining us. So, nice. Yeah, isn't that crazy? So anyway. All right, lady, I'm sending you, again, love, light, and blessing. I'm really going to go this time. So I will talk to you later. Okay?
Have a great day.
Have the rest of your afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, very soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.